What's up, Bama Insider Nation? Trey Yanity, Kyle Henderson back for another edition of Monday Night Quarterback. Thanks for being here with us tonight, guys. Hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check out the rest of our work. We really appreciate the support. Guys, we're doing Monday Night Quarterback a little bit different. If you've joined us these last couple weeks, you've noticed it's a little bit more personal. Just two of us at a time, typically. One man in, one man out these last 2 weeks. This week, it's just going to be me and the managing editor of BamaInsider.com, Kyle Henderson, talking about this 2021 season. We got a lot to cover tonight. We're going to talk about this schedule, which teams present the biggest threat for Alabama, which players we expect to break out in 2021, all kinds of storylines. Before we get started with that, Kyle, how you doing tonight on this Monday evening?
Well, I'm doing great. We have, two of our other staff members out on vacation right now, which is good for them. We have Tony, who's out in Savannah. So, him and his wife, they actually got married last year. So they're enjoying the beautiful Southeast. And then we have Andrew Bone. We actually had a video. We cut a video with him. So we're still going to have a video on Tuesday night for recruiting. But he's down at the beach with his family. And he got married last year. So, and then Garrett's asking, where's Mick? So Mick will be back in the fold come football season. So Mick is somewhat of a seasonal job, because if you guys didn't know, he's also the play-by-play guy for the Smokies, so the baseball team. So it's kind of a good fit. So as soon as kind of the football season, ends in April, he starts doing his play-by-play, and then we bring him back during the actual football season. So that's kind of the rotation that we have right here on Bama Insider. And then, proud to announce, that Trey Yanity will be joining us full-time starting in July. So, we're really excited to bring him on board. And I think, you're going to be really pleased with kind of, what he brings to the table. You've already seen a lot of his videos that he's been adding to the channel. So he's currently back in his hometown right now, which is up in Greensville, South Carolina, right, Trey?
Oh, yeah, you're on it.
And then he's going to be back in Tuscaloosa come the start of the football season. So that's kind of the whole crew. And then me, I'm here in beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and eager to talk some Alabama football as we move forward. And as you can see, we got the graphic up on the screen. The odds were just released today. We're going to kind of, go back and forth a little bit about, the front end of that schedule, because I think with Miami and Florida, they provide some interesting storylines going in. So Trey's hosting, and kind of away we go.
Yeah, thanks for those kind words, by the way, Kyle, there too. Excited to be joining this team full time, and excited to get to know you guys all better, get to know our regulars, everybody tuning into the channel. Get in the comments, tell me about yourself. Let us know what you want to hear, as we continue to get into this summer here. Really excited for this opportunity to get started. Excited for this football season, Kyle. I mean, this schedule, is really poses some threats along the way. When I first saw it, kind of thought about it like, maybe the 2017 schedule. Couple threats, couple tough road games, but overall, I didn't really find the schedule all that difficult. I know we had, some differing opinions within our Bama Insider staff, but let's start with Miami, September 4th, the neutral site. Bama was listed today as a 17.5-point favorite over the Hurricanes. Do you think that's realistic? I mean, you and I both think Alabama's probably going to win this game handily, but is 17.5 too low, too high? What do you think about that line?
I think it's pretty high, to be honest, especially considering the fact that, Alabama loses so much firepower. So I think it's high to begin with. But then again, I start to think about it, and I'm like, Miami's defense is completely gone, right? I know, just as in the comment box, I think it was Jeff who says they have a good quarterback in Derek King who's coming back. But other than that, I mean, they're missing some good components. So I think when I look at this game, I look to Alabama's offense, and I know we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit tonight and kind of talk about Bill O'Brien and what approach that he could have. But I think from what I saw from Bryce Young during the springtime, I was pretty impressed, to be honest. I mean, during that A-Day, I saw what I needed to see, and I'm forgetting about Bryce Young 2020, and I'm focusing in on Bryce Young from the spring season, because I think it's time to turn the page. And what we saw from the springtime, I think, is a good sample size of what's to come. His ability to extend plays. I keep thinking back to that play where he kind of put Byron Young on skates, leans back and hits Roydell Williams for, what was it, like a 65-yard gain or whatever. So that type of almost magician approach, I think, is going to really benefit this offense, out of the fact that he has such a quick release. You don't spend too much time looking around. You see an open receiver, boom. And the example of that is him hitting Cameron Latou for the touchdown pass. And I thought, if you look to that play and kind of rewind, that was a quick release. So when I look to these items, I know Miami I know Florida kind of there in the first 3 games. I think it's exciting because of those are some key storylines going in. Miami, has a lot more to prove in this game, but I think Alabama being a 17.5 favorite, I think it's high. But Bama, you got to come with it against Bama. And even though we've seen it time and time again, Alabama loses so many guys, but year in and year out, Nick Saban's able to develop these guys, have them dialed in. This is all rat poison, Trey, right? All the 17.5, all the spreads, that's all rat poison. So file this video under rat poison, at least the beginning portion. But 17.5, I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to try to be a little less rat poison heavy this season. Last year, there was a lot of it. I mean, they won the national title, guys, so you can't blame us. But 17.5 is a little bit of rat poison. It is a little high, in my opinion. I'm with you. This Alabama team is going to be different, but I think you have to focus on Miami and this defense. Like you were mentioning, this defense is not going to be very good. And in the ACC, I think they're going to be fine. They'll compete, whatever. But against a team like Alabama, week 1, when they probably won't have it even close to being together yet, it's going to be tough. We'll see, but 17.5 is quite the number there. That one's going to be fun. Let's move it down the schedule a little bit. And guys, let us know what you think. Is 17.5 too much for that opening week? Alabama is going to be favored in pretty much all of these games. As we go down the list here, let's talk about Florida next a little bit. This is a 15-point spread in Alabama's favor. This is a Florida team that was knocking on the door to go to the playoff last year. They were in the SEC title. But, Kyle, I mean, this team is not going to have Kyle Trask. They're not going to have Kyle Pitts. They're not going to have Kadarius Toney. They bring back some guys, and this offense is maybe going to take the biggest hit here. We've heard a lot about their defense in this offseason, but 15, I mean, this one seems pretty high considering Alabama, had to go down to the wire to beat this team not even a year ago in the SEC title.
I think when I look at this game, I was trying to look for a graphic that I had created. Here it is against Florida. Let me get that graphic up.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When I look at this game, I look to the fact that, Dan Mullen, who knows, he's kind of like I don't know if he's an evil genius, but he kind of like almost like went kind of towards the evil route towards last season, right? He put on like the Darth Vader helmet. He said some things that, were catching a lot of almost negative attention. But we saw them, get to the SEC championship game, very entertaining game. We knew there was going to be a lot of points considering Kyle Trask and all the firepower that Florida had. And we knew that their defense was going to be able to stop Alabama's. Then again, did Alabama's defense stop Florida's? No, not really. This year, both those quarterbacks have moved on. But I think one of the things that I'm really interested in between Florida and Alabama is the fact that this game is on the road in Gainesville. And the fact that, you got Bryce Young, the new quarterback, going on the road to Gainesville. And I think when we start to look to the 2021 season, you're going to start to see that this season, we're getting back to full capacity. And I think you're going to start to see that with the softball tournament coming up. I heard that, the softball tournament is going to be at full max. And I think when we go to the season, especially Florida, they've been open pretty much throughout even COVID. So I think Gainesville is going to be full capacity. That's a tough environment to play at the Swamp. So a great time for Alabama to pick up a key potential road win going to Florida. I think, no matter what Florida has coming back, it's going to be a tough game on the road. 2 touchdown favorite at the Swamp. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ton. And I think this team's very capable of it. And like you're talking about, I think this could really be the signature win that this team needs. I mean, you think about it, Bryce Young, at this point in his career, is still waiting for that signature moment any way he can get it. And he didn't get the chance to last season. Like you're talking about, he has come such a long way. If you look at our video out on the YouTube channel earlier this week, we kind of talked about the progression that he's made and, how quick his hands really are and how he's tried to bring them a little bit higher up. I think all of these things really make a huge difference when you talk about a game like this. You got to go to the Swamp. This is a really hard environment to play in. This is going to be a game that is going to define the season for both teams one way or another. September 18th there, that is week 3. Let's touch on a few of these other games as we go down the stretch here. Guys, let us know which one you think is going to be Alabama's biggest threat. Personally, I think it's going to be at Texas A&M. I mean, this is a team that returns a running back, picked to finish ahead of every other running back in the league, probably picked in the top 3 across the country. An offense that will be relatively potent here. Jimbo Fisher is getting this squad together. How do you feel about that Texas A&M game? That's a 13-point spread in Alabama's favor, starting to slim down as we go down the list here.
Yeah, when I look at Texas A&M, in the recent comments made by Jimbo Fisher, look, I get it. He's trying to rally the Houston quarterback club up or whatever. And then Nick Saban said, "What is he going to beat me at golf?" Look, these two guys go way back. They're great friends, I would assume, and they used to coach together. And the job that Jimbo has done, I guess, can be up for debate. I mean, he's what is he paid? He got paid like $75 million, so he's making like 7.5 a year.
Yeah.
And last year they were one game away really from being in the playoffs. I think a lot of people felt that maybe they should have been in the playoffs over Notre Dame. That's something I guess, that's up for debate as well. But I think with Texas A&M, it's going to be a challenging game. I think over the past couple of years, they've been steadily improving. The fact that this game, once again, is in College Station, another very tough environment. Again, going back to the fact that Texas is going to be fully up to capacity. And look, Nick Saban has said at some point, he feels that some assistant could potentially be him. I mean, you got to think it's like almost bound to happen because almost all these assistants, right, have been under Nick Saban. But then again, you look to the fact that Alabama just keeps reloading, and the offense has really been the catalyst for Alabama to get to that next level. And I always say this, going back to when Alabama got offensive coordinator Brian DeBall from the Patriots, right? He was a tight ends coach, came over here. You really just saw the offense completely transform. I was talking to someone this weekend who was like, remember when Alabama was just always defense and everything kind of revolved around the defense? Well, that isn't the case anymore. And that could be the case maybe this year because the defense has so many bets coming back. But the point is the offense now is built to score 45 points at the lowest, right? I mean, these guys are scoring so many points. They're getting all the best athletes. You look at everything coming back for Alabama on the offensive side. There's so much firepower. I know they have to figure out the wide receivers, but I mean, come on, Ajay Hall, Javon Baker, not to add, John Mechie, Jaleel Billingsley. I mean, come on, that's a ridiculous foursome right there. So the game against Texas A&M, though, I think is going to be very challenging. What'd you say the line was on that game, Trey?
That one's going to be 13 points, so just under
13 points on the road again, man. These are some big lines for some road games that I think are going to be in some very hostile environments with a team that has to find some sort of rhythm early on in the season. And look, this is Jeff is saying we averaged 48.5 points. So man, I mean that's my point. This team is built to score almost at will.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. This team, last season, you have a Heisman winner as a wide receiver, and you have two guys that one of was a Heisman finalist, two could have been Heisman finalists. I mean, the offense last season was deadly. So we kind of transition here and talk about the offense this year. Do you think they can match that at all? Obviously, you don't have Devontae Smith. You're losing Mac Jones. You're losing Najee Harris. You're losing some guys. But you have a really, really talented offensive coordinator coming in Bill O'Brien, who's going to try some different things. What do we expect Bill O'Brien to do immediately? And, do you think this offense can get to that same level or even close to it that we saw last year?
I don't know if you're going to get to that same potency that the offense was last year. I mean, look, you had a Heisman Trophy winner, a Davey O'Brien winner in Mac Jones, and then you have, the Doug Walker winner.
Yeah, every award they could have won.
Every award. And then you added the fact that they won the Joe Moore Award, the offensive line. Honestly, Trey, this could probably be one of the best offenses ever in college football. I know a lot of people are going to point to that LSU team. Who knows? Maybe so. I mean, what LSU did the year prior, with Joe Burrow and all those guys, that was deadly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, that was an incredible team. But to follow that up with Alabama going against the all SEC and then straight into the playoffs and then burying Ohio State, who had a great defense, I mean, that says something. Steve Sarkisian played a huge role in that. I think Steve Sarkisian got better at calling plays as the season went on. You look to the championship game against Ohio State. I think he called a fantastic overall offensive approach with Mac Jones, kind of how they used Devontae Smith in that first half. So Bill O'Brien stepping into an offense that, is going to have a lot of pieces to replace. But Nick Saban is really excited about Bill O'Brien. I think, we heard a lot of positives from him in the spring. He's not going to say anything negative, of course, but I think adding to the fact that he's a pro coach that's coming to Alabama, which is basically, a mini pro university. And I think he has a lot of weapons to work with. I added this picture and particularly because he is pictured Bill Bryan on the left and then Jaleel Billingsley on the right. I think Billingsley is going to be one of the top wide receivers / tight ends in college football. I think when you look to, the Kyle Pitts, the Brevin Jordans, guys who are, have great size, great speed on the outside, can create mismatches. I think Billingsley is certainly going to play a key role. So I know we're talking about all these wide receivers. Which wide receiver is going to step up? It might be this young man right here on the screen. You got John Mechie, Billingsley, split him out. You got Slade Bolden, you got Ajay Hall, you got Javon Baker. You got, maybe a JoJo Earl or Christian Leary, whoever else wants to step up, add to the fact Cameron Latou. So, so many weapons. And maybe it comes back to the offensive line as well, but it doesn't hurt to have big 6'7", 360-pound Evan Neal returning at tackle.
No doubt about it. I mean, it really is exciting. Like Derek Wilson's saying in the comments here, it's exciting to talk about this team this year because, people talk about the losses and the players that are exiting, but you think about it, this team is adding so many players. There's so much depth. Even guys like Jamison Williams, the transfer from Ohio State that they got a couple weeks ago. I mean, this is a deep team. This is a really deep team. Let us know what you think about it, guys. Get in the comment, hit the like button, everything, super chats. It's all appreciated. Thanks for being here on this episode of Monday Night Quarterback. You talk about breakout players. Gio Billingsley is certainly a guy that you look to specifically, and I think Bill O'Brien is going to be able to use him and really utilize all these pieces really well. What about Bryce Young, though? We touched on it a little bit ago. Do you think Bill O'Brien is going to get Bryce Young to the level that everybody expects Bryce Young to be at, the level that we all thought he was going to be at when he made that flip from USC? Obviously, Bill O'Brien's a former NFL guy, fresh out of the NFL, very talented football mind. Does he have enough to get Bryce to the level we expected?
Yeah, I think so. I think, with Bryce and any five-star that comes in, you want these guys to automatically be the starter. And if they're not the starter, your expectations are kind of let down. And I think what you have to do is be patient with some of these guys. And one of the videos we released today was talking about second-year players, and we mentioned Drew Sanders. Who you want Drew Sanders to start over? William Anderson and Chris Allen. You got to be patient. I mean, he's going to be good, but you just got to be patient. And same with Bryce Young. You couldn't put Bryce Young in over Mac Jones. I mean, look at the way that Mac Jones was playing. So now that Bryce Young has a chance to operate this offense with a new offensive coordinator, from everything that I gather, Bill O'Brien has been wonderful, with this offense and getting these guys off to a right start. And I think Bryce Young, we saw a lot of progression from him during these first couple of weeks of the spring practice, and then in A-Day he threw for 333 yards with one touchdown. And I think he showed just overall that he can really be the point man of this offense and get the ball to who he needs it to be. And remember, John Mechie didn't even play in that game, and neither did Brian Robinson, his running back. So you didn't really see, all the arsenal that Alabama really has. So I'm sold on Bryce Young, and I think he's going to do a fantastic job leading this offense into 2021.
I do too. And, a year ago, Mick, I think, was in this boat, maybe even Tony, maybe yourself. We all thought Bryce was going to be the starter come week one. A very divisive conversation last year. There really is no doubt this season. You look to some other guys, maybe we see Jalen Milroe at some point, a little bit of Paul Tyson, but this is going to be Bryce Young's team. I mean, he has been given the keys to the car, an offense that's going to be pretty deadly and, really bringing some force from all over. You talk about running back, and we'll touch on it here before we move on to defense. How often do they split up time here? Obviously, Brian Robinson's going to be your one back. Then after that, probably Kamar Wheaton or Trey Sanders, or, how do they split it up here? As we see certain guys come onto the scene, even like we did in A-Day, do we see Brian Robinson get 60% of carries? How do they divide it up this season?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. When you look at the running back room, it's easy to get caught up in all these guys and trying to figure out, who's going to get the most carries and whatnot. But I think you need to focus in on Brian Robinson and give him the respect that he deserves. What's that? We're getting some sort of beeping. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like call waiting. Trey, you get up by someone on call waiting?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. We'll try to diagnose the problem here. Yeah, maybe somebody's on hold or something like that. We got a caller in the room.
We got a caller in the queue. But look, don't forget the fact that Brian Robinson rushed for 70 yards against Ohio State. And remember what Najee Harris said after the game. He was like, "I am hurting." Right? I mean, these guys were after him. So Brian Robinson, this man is a big boy, 230 pounds. And I think if he has to be that bell cow, carry the football 20 times, let's just hypothetically say Bryce isn't having his best game against Florida, whatever. You can rely on a proven back in Brian Robinson. By that time, he'd already been playing in his 55th game at Alabama, enters the season playing 52 games. So that's a lot of experience. I think behind him, maybe it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people want to see who is the backup running back, and maybe it's going to be Jace McClellan. But I'll tell you what, I think Roydell Williams is certainly a name that you should know. And we put that in the video today. He had a very good spring. Some people might have even said that he surpassed Jace McClellan. Maybe it doesn't even matter. Point is, you have some very good depth behind Brian Robinson, and I think that's important. Don't forget about Killen Robinson. And then, as you mentioned, Kamar Wheaton, he's coming in. You also got Kyle Edwards. So there's so many guys. In fact, I think I have a graphic of the running backs all at Alabama. And I think I just put up this today because the room is just incredible. Let me see if I can find that real quick. But
it's like sneaky deep almost. I feel like people don't realize how deep this running back group is. I mean, there's just so many guys that have kind of waited their turn here that are going to get their chance this year.
I mean, look at this. I mean, so I guess I listed it, based off their eligibility, which is crazy because you got to remember, because of that COVID year, the NCAA basically gave everybody an extra year eligibility. So when you look on Alabama's roster, rolltide.com, it's going to list Killen Robinson as a junior, but eligibility wise, he's a sophomore. Same with the rest of these guys. But look at all those stars on stars, right? And, Kamar Wheaton should be getting here to Tuscaloosa any day. If you follow social media, you know that all these players are starting to announce home when they're showing off their dorm room or what an exciting feeling, to kind of get to Tuscaloosa. You got like Kyrie Jackson coming in, Dallas Turner, Kamar Wheaton, several of these additional guys from that number one ranked class of 2021. So here's the running back room completely loaded, as you can see.
I mean, it's just so deep. I don't even think there's that many stars in the Tuscaloosa night sky, not from 15th Street at least. Let us know where you're watching from, guys. Get in the comments. Give us your thoughts as we get into this episode of Monday Night Quarterback. We're not going to go too long tonight. We'll probably keep it somewhere under half an hour here as we continue to break down this roster, break down this schedule. Leads us into this defense now, Kyle, and a defense that really has to be exceptional, or it could be Pete Golding's job. But, I'm going to be one to say that I've had a lot of confidence in Pete Golding for quite some time. I've been trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know a lot of people within this fan base, within the Tuscaloosa community, they don't really prefer Pete Golding's coaching style maybe, but I think that's a product of what he had to work with. You look back to his first season, he was starting Christian Harris. He was starting Jordan Battle in the middle there. I mean, two freshmen that weren't ready to go yet, two very talented players, but guys that just didn't get the scheme yet. It was a little bit too complicated at times. We heard that from Dylan Moses last year against Missouri. He didn't know exactly what plays to call because it was just a little bit too much, but they simplified it for Georgia. And from there on out, it looked a lot better. And it's only continued to have hype built around it as we get into this season. He's going to have some big freshmen coming in too. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the biggest name out of that group. Really a defense that's looking to be the leader on this Crimson Tide team in 2021. What are your thoughts on this defense and Pete Golding? I mean, is this the make or break year?
I think when you look at Alabama's defense, you have to look to the vets that are coming back to this year, just as you said. I mean, you look to the fact that this team really only loses Patrick Surtain, but everybody else comes back. I know we didn't mention Brian Branch or Malachi Moore or William Anderson on any of our second-year players to watch video that we released today because you already know about those guys, right? I mean, Malachi Moore, complete baller, kind of some mini Minkah Fitzpatrick vibes. You got William Anderson, who is just like the best thing since Derek Thomas, which says a tremendous amount, right? But then all those other guys we talked about, all the guys returning on the defensive line, inside backer. You got Christian Harris coming in. You got now Henry To'oTo'o added to the mix. Everyone thinks that we completely, forgot about Jalen Moody and Shane Lee. That's not the case, and people are just excited about, Henry To'oTo'o finally getting to Alabama. In terms of Pete Golding, I think that people have been hard on Pete Golding, and rightfully so. I mean, the expectations when you do anything in Tuscaloosa related to football is perfection. And I think that kind of getting back to what I said earlier, when Brian DeBall came to Alabama, the offense completely changed, which made the defense completely change. And more points on the board on the offensive side is going to allow more points that the defense is going to allow because the defense is going to be on the field a lot more, right? So the one person, and I've kind of went back and forth with this. I'm like, is Pete Golding the right guy? Is he not the right guy? And when I kind of just stood back and thought about it, I was like, look, who knows more? Whose defense is this really? Right? Is it really Pete Golding's? No, it's Nick Saban's defense. If you know anything about Alabama football, you know that Nick Saban is a defensive-minded coach, right? Yeah, he might dip into the offensive meeting, whatever. He might make the tough call to start Tua in the second half over Jalen Hurts in the title game. But other than that, it's Nick Saban's defense. And I think that he's definitely enjoying mentoring Pete Golding. I mean, look, I've heard Pete Golding speak and talk defensive schematics, and my goodness, he's outstanding, right? And you kind of see that carry over to Dylan Moses or to Christian Harris. And I know that Dylan Moses didn't have the best season, but the fact is the terminology that these guys have is really incredible. So Pete Golding, if he needed to be gone, if there needed to be changes with the defense, Nick Saban would have made that. Nick Saban isn't afraid to make changes. Nick Saban isn't afraid to make his program do what's best for the program. So therefore, if he needed Pete Golding to go, he would have done that a long time ago. And I think that people are going to be really excited about this defense coming back, not only because of the vets, but there's a lot of younger guys, like you said. I mean, JaQuincy McKinstry, basically, look, let's be honest, he put 2 guys in the transfer portal by himself, right? Brandon Turnage, Ronald Williams, those guys exited out. You should be excited about Kyrie Jackson. I think he's going to be another player to add a lot of depth to that secondary. And then don't forget about Terran Arnold, the big-time playmaker out of Tallahassee, Florida, who is very, very talented coming in. Kind of give you some, JaQuincy McKinstry vibes. Both those guys, basketball players and football players. And I think J.D. Davison, talking basketball right now, I think he even arrived in Tuscaloosa. So, Tuscaloosa loading up with some of the best talent in the entire country right now.
Oh, yeah, all over the board. I mean, it is title town for a reason. And you talk about this defense as a whole here. It's deep. It's like the running back spot on the offensive side. I mean, you look at the linebacker itself. There's so many different substitutions they can make and really not lose any quality there. We pulled up the formations last week on this show, and, you talk about it. There's not really a hole. And I think people get so caught up. These first 2 seasons with Pete Golding, at least, especially that first one, people get so caught up in the scoreboard. I was walking in Atlanta this weekend, actually, and I ran into some Georgia fans. And the first thing they said to me was, man, you guys, if Pete Golding was just gone, you guys would be so much this, that, whatever. But I think people just don't really understand how smart this dude is. I got the chance to go to some practices this year in the spring. And the one thing I noticed about Pete Golding, different from really any other football coach I've ever seen other than Nick Saban himself, was the way that he's breaking down and describing everything to these players. I mean, it's not just telling you what to do, but it's telling you why it's going to benefit you and how it's going to make you better. I mean, the dude is just, he's a defensive mind, and it was a little bit too complex at times. I think that's a product of really how smart he is. You look at some of these formations here. I mean, just look at this in the middle. You got Malachi Moore next to Christian Harris, and then on either end, you have Armar Davis now. You got Chris Allen and Will Anderson edge rushing, and you think about it, this is a defensive formation that doesn't even include Henry To'oTo'o or Terry and Arnold or the younger guys that are definitely going to get their opportunity. I mean, just so deep this year. And I think Pete Golding really is the perfect man for the job. Good to see everybody in the comments tonight a little bit more friendly to Coach Golding there. Great to see it. I really think this is a big year for him and a year that he can take huge strides.
Look at this Nickel Rabbits package. I mean, as you were saying, I mean, when you kind of zoom in this particular graphic, we include Henry To'oTo'o. And for those of you out there that think it's going to be Jalen Moody, then slide him in right there. I mean, who knows who it's going to be, right? I mean, you even got Shane Lee and some other talented underclassmen that are coming in. But just look at this base right here from the Nickel Rabbits package. Jalen Armar Davis, and if he can hold off Kyrie Jackson or Kool-Aid, look at that corner depth right there. You got Josh Jobe, very experienced corner coming back, the most experienced corner that Alabama has. William Anderson and Chris Allen coming off the edge. That's going to be a nightmare. Tim Smith, LeBron Ray. And I think we're all still waiting for LeBron Ray to really have that breakout season. I think he's one of the players that, we're all just waiting for and hopeful that he can really get to where he needs to be, because he's dealt with some nagging injuries that have been unfortunate. Up at the top, the safety positions, you got Jordan Battle and DeMarco Hellams. Talk about a fantastic duo back there. And then you also have, Daniel Wright, who I would assume will rotate in. I know people have different opinions about Daniel Wright, but I think DeMarco Hellams is probably enters the season as that starter with Jordan Battle. Jordan Battle, just like you said earlier, Trey, I mean, this will be, his third season coming into this year, which is hard to believe. I mean, it seems like just, a year ago. I mean, it goes so fast. These guys rotate in and out, right? But Jordan Battle now already a junior with a tremendous amount of playing experience.
Yeah. Like Von Blue's been saying, this defense is stacked this year to the max, just so deep all over. We could look at every formation and really you just can't find any holes. It's going to be really fun to watch both sides of this football. They start in Miami on September the 4th, 17 and a half. It's a lot. It's going to make our pick'em challenge there on the Tailgate Show a little bit difficult this year, but I think we can handle it just fine. Thanks for being here, guys. Before we get out of here, hit that like button one more time. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're dropping videos pretty much every day, breaking down this roster, talking about where guys are going to be playing, how often, wherever else. Hit us up on BamaInsider.com as well. We have articles coming out every day from staff writers Tony Tsoukalis or recruiting expert Andrew Bone, breaking down everything going around the country and recruiting and at this level as well. Kyle, before we get out of here, your last thoughts, anything else going on in Bama Insider this week?
Just continue to follow the coverage. We sincerely appreciate you being a part of our club right here on BamaInsider.com. You can hit the join button to further help our business model. There's a $2.99 option, or just a simple thumbs up. A lot of that goes our way. And like I said earlier in the show, we're bringing on Trey Yannity full time. So we're really excited about that. Mick will be back during the football season. Andrew Bone is on vacation along with Tony Tsoukalis. So those guys need to get their rest. And of course, you're still going to have a video from Bone. I just cut it today from the beach. So he's down at the beach, but Bone, he's always still working. So we're excited to have our recruiting show. That'll be out on Tuesday night as scheduled. So thank you very much. Hit the thumbs up like Coach Saban is right there. We appreciate you more than you know. I hope you guys have a productive week. Trey, we good to close out?
We are good to close out. I'll need you to hit that button for me, Kyle. Thanks again, guys. Roll Tide.